Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me, Lisa Lamont, who is host of Ladies, Get Your Prance On. And today we have a special edition because I thought that we would bring Jen Duchene back in the house. It's been a while. And we want to talk about women and spirituality, what's going on with women and change, because Jen has been really, really vocal this past year. She's like come out of her shell and just like, I am a queen and I am owning my truth. And so she is all about telling the truth. And so thank you, everybody, for joining us. And co-host today, Jen Duchene, welcome.
Woohoo! Yay! Got my prance on.
Yes, you do have your. You do have. We should have worn our little crowns, right? I didn't even think about that. So Jen, first of all, start off and share with us what you think of when we talk about women and spirituality, because I wanted to have you on the show to talk about women today, the changes since this election. You know, a lot of changes have happened, and this isn't just being for one candidate or the other. This has been a big awakening for women, period. So just jump right in and kind of tell your truth, sister.
I'll do what I can. Yay. So I think that there's a lot of different aspects. When you talk about the election, for me, the biggest thing about this election is that this particular president in the US, for those of us in the US, is the number 45, which is about endings. And I do think that he's the bridge between, what was and what's coming. So, his actions are actually, whether we like them or not, he's actually forcing us, especially as women, to own who we are and own the truth that we have and stand in that. And the universe is pushing us to this place. Like, if we weren't pissed off right now, we could all just go back to sleep and say, oh, someone else is taking care of it. Yeah. But we are seriously pissed off, as we need to be, because anger, this kind of anger, is very healthy when we use it to push ourselves out of the mud and to grow what we really want. Because up till this point, as women, most of our education and our understanding of who we are, even the spiritual aspects, have been in a box that men have mostly decided what they are, or, women from their old experience. And now as we go forward, we're being instructed by the universe that we must not hold the truth that has been the truth before. If X happened, Y would follow. Right now we're in this space where we have to go, well, X has happened, Y has followed, but now I'm standing in my truth. I'm beginning to dispel the veils, or the idea that who I am as a human has to be shaped by people I don't even know, or even agree with, even if I do know them. Like, we're being given the freedom. And freedom, there's that idea, oh, I'm free, I'll do whatever I want. But with freedom comes this immense responsibility, because when you want to be free, when you truly own what you believe in, then you have to stand in it, no matter what's happening around you. You have to be like a tree, rooted in the ground, and yet able to move with the wind that comes through your leaves. And it doesn't mean you can't evolve, because there's a difference between evolving into your next phase and your growth and just kind of going along with whatever shows up.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that happened this past year is I saw a division, because one of the things in Prancing Kitten is my no-nos is we don't talk religion and we don't talk politics. And I still stand by that, because I honor people. I have dear friends that are one side. I have dear friends that are the other side. I have dear friends that are not on any of the sides. I have friends who are religious and who are not religious. I have friends that believe in God and don't believe in God. And these are the things that divide women. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't want to have those two topics were off topic, because we as women, I want us to come together and support one another. And even if people didn't vote for our current president, and I have many women who have, it isn't about who voted, it's about us supporting one another and about awakening each other.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
I think it's very interesting, but one of our greatest weaknesses is our fear of being able to have conversation, right? because someone else has a different opinion, they're not our immediate enemy. And we're never going to cross the divide if we're not willing to listen to someone else's opinion and go, I hear you voted for someone different. You have a different idea. That's okay. I'm not trying to change you. Don't try and change me, because this is the greatest confusion here, is this idea that if you're not for us, you're against us. Mm-hmm. And that just creates and keeps perpetuating the myth. That's what we've lived for thousands of years, is this myth that, oh, I'm different. You're a man, I'm a woman. You're a child, I'm an adult. You're voted for this one, I voted for someone else. And so what that does is it just keeps creating the sea that pushes us apart. Where the truth is, when we know who we are, we're not threatened by someone else's opinion. Because we've got to stand in our own truth. Yes. So having discussions with people, allowing them to say their opinion and holding a container, safe container, so people can not feel attacked, right? Mm-hmm. And even if you are attacked, the point is you have to stand in that and say, is some of this true? What does this mean to me? How am I going to react? And you can certainly react with fear, anger, etc., or you can act with love. Oh, that person's in a different place from me. Or maybe they're telling me a truth I need to hear, right? Yeah. It's that listening and talking skill that we need to develop, because, everyone is in a different place. And our greatest strength, that's spirituality, right? It isn't any of that other bullshit people talk about. Like, being spiritual is if I meditate every day. Well, it doesn't help if you meditate every day. If you don't have space or compassion, a sea of compassion for someone else being in the same water as you and having a different opinion, living a different life. We don't have to all agree with each other about every single thing, but I think we can agree that we're all humans and that we all want really the same things. Like, we all want the freedom to express who we are and be held in a space of love.
Yes. Donine, do you want to jump in on this, or what are your thoughts?
Sure. I think that this past election cycle really woke up a lot of women. Mm-hmm. And in watching my daughter and her generation, she's 24 and she's been a registered voter since she was 18. And she saw me run for office once about 10 years ago. I've taken her to the polls with me every time that I voted when she was little. So she understood the process and how important it was. But up until this presidential election, she had never voted. She had not voted in local elections, state elections, county elections. She could have voted in the last presidential election, and she didn't. Well, this time she did, and she became very vocal about not who she was voting for, but the fact that she was voting, and she influenced her circle of friends, some of whom had never voted before. They weren't even registered, so that this generation that's coming up, that so many of us are, we're calling them snowflakes, or they're entitled or whatever, but a lot of them really are starting to wake up and see, for us to have a voice, we need to exercise our individual voices, first of all, but then we need to influence our circle of friends so that everyone else that's watching us and listening to our voices won't necessarily get on board with what we believe, like Jen was saying, but will at least exercise their right to do what we are so blessed and privileged to be able to do here in our country.
What I found too about women in this last year, especially, people even outside the United States, and, because everyone has their opinion. And I love to use the words when somebody says something that it isn't that I necessarily don't agree with, but I always say, I'm really curious why you came to this conclusion. I'm really curious why. And then all of a sudden, when you use that word, you don't make it like a fight or a battle. And then you can understand where they're coming from, because we're all raised differently. We're all raised with different values. We've been on different paths, on different journeys. We've had different experiences. I even came to learn this last year that one of the people, when I became curious, her voting for, or she was more against one candidate, was because of her personal experience. It had nothing to do with either candidate, but because of her experience with one of the parties, that she had a bad experience with someone within that party, then she clustered everyone together. So it's just interesting. It is until, like Jen said, until we have these conversations that we can understand. Lilt, is there anything that you wanted to jump in and add?
No, I'm pretty good, but you're absolutely right. And plus, a lot of people are showing a lot of contempt toward each other, and that really bothers me, as opposed to listening freely to what the other person has to say.
And for people watching, Lil's kitty cat behind her is not a plot. This isn't a plant for prancing kittens, but I think I love having,
Perfect.
I love having your prancing kitten in the background.
Thank you.
And Joey and Michelle, do either one of you, I know that you might be just in the listening mode, do either one of you would like to make a comment?
Oh, well, I'd like to make one comment. How unusual, but is I just got back from a women's conference, kind of known as the biggest women's conference in the nation. And what was really interesting about being at this conference, it was such a blessing, is that I was able to see again how deeply rooted women not necessarily supporting and not even liking one another runs. It runs very deeply. And I feel like this is something that needs to be addressed more often and needs to be taken out of the shadows, because the majority, a bunch of speakers at the conference were actually men at a women's conference. And now here's the thing, you all know I like men, so this has nothing to do with that, right? Yes. And they were good, and some of them were good keynoters too, by the way. Yeah. But I thought that was so interesting that there were just as many men speakers as there were women at a women's conference when we're trying to talk about women's topics. And here's the thing too, is they didn't cover women's topics. They didn't even bridge women's topics, the men.
Wow.
They just talked about whatever keynoting topic they're talking about right now in 2017 is what I'm trying to say. And I felt that was very, very telling. I really did.
And there was a lot of people there at that event too. I mean, it was a women's conference, correct, Joey?
Yeah, it's really famous. I mean, it's famous globally for this conference. So this is not a small conference. This is not like, this is a major conference. People fly in from all over the world to this conference. So that there were that many men on stage at a women's conference really bothered me. And my whole feeling on it is that we do think differently than men. We do think differently, and that's a good thing, right? But here's the thing is that you can't cover a woman's topics from a man's point of view. And I'm going to stand by that. I just am. I don't think you can. I don't think it's possible, And it was also taking spots on stages away from women that might not be given the opportunity. And let's all get real about that too. People saying, oh, women have just as many opportunities. That's not true. That is not the truth. It's not.
Exactly.
This is one of the biggest stages in the world, and you've given half of them to a man.
And it's a women's conference. So Jen, jump in on that.
I think it's such a great illustration of our fear as women, right? Here you have a conference for women, and their natural inclination is to go to men because men are the authority, right? And so it really says more about the woman than it does about the men, because the men are not invited clearly to come and address women's topics or bring us your idea of what it's like, because they would have talked about it. But why are women feeling so threatened or so unsure of themselves, even in this day and age, that we need to turn to men and say, okay, people won't come unless we have you talking about whatever you're talking about. I think it's really an indicator of how little we trust ourselves and what we have to do. Like now that's the question. What do we have to do to trust who we are? And the other part of this that's so interesting is here's this women's conference. I don't know how long it's been going on for, but clearly for a while, if it's that well known. And we are moving away from that because a lot of those structures were about pretending that women have been accepted in a man's world, right?
Exactly. It's been going on for 30 years. This was the 30-year anniversary.
Well, perfect then. It's time for it to change, right? Those things are dying. So
30 years they've been doing this women's conference in California, huge. with hundreds of people, and then half the speakers are men. Like I would think maybe one or two, but to bring in where half the speakers are men, don't we have enough women in this country, in this world that could be there to inspire other women? Joey, let me ask you one more thing too about this conference. Were there any healers that were the speakers there? Because Jen and I, we talked about that, people that talk about spirituality and healing and self-love. Did they have those speakers also, or was it mostly about business?
No, they didn't have those speakers either, which, I'm very, I also feel that that's a missing component out there. I think I've been pretty vocal about that as well. No, they didn't. I just felt like I was kind of transported back in time. I don't know how else to explain it. Well, I got a lot out of it because I really feel I was meant to be there to see this. I think that was one of the main reasons that I went,
Yeah.
And how deeply rooted it really is. And so I just started boycotting. I started leaving when men went on stage. So that's my prerogative. I was over Media Row anyways the whole time, but that's just the way I felt. But I feel like it's even deeper than that. I felt like, for me, again, this is my point of view, nothing more, is that I feel that there is a deep-rooted hatred for other women amongst women, and it is literally indoctrinated in us when we're as young as 4, around men, boys, who likes who more, who gets invited to the prom, whose boyfriend, who's going out with whom, who are you going to marry? Are you going to marry up? Are you going to marry into wealth? Are you going to marry into the right last name? It goes on and on and on.
Well, I think that, you do bring up a really good point, Joey, but then you have to remember that we ourselves as women have created this bubble, our safety net. It's been safe for us to hate each other. That's kind of being perpetuated, right? There's a great fear that's been perpetuated because it's very convenient. If we're in competition with one another, if we're angry, if we're all trying for the same things, or we see women as a threat in some way, or that they're hating on each other, it just kind of carries on the whole system, right? Yeah. And so the way to deconstruct it is to begin to do what you do, right? Which is, what we want to do. You have to live the way you believe, and you can't focus on the people that are doing something different, because that isn't the way things change. And we're in this time where everything needs to change. So you change it by doing different things, as you are, Joey, as many of the women here are doing, right? We begin to embrace life in the way that we want it to go forward. Mm-hmm. And that begins to dismantle the way it's been. Because when women can see that they can go to places where it's not fearful, and it's going to take, everyone takes their own time, they're in their own place. Yeah. When they see their places where they can actually trust, because so many women have experienced betrayal, right? I mean, even the whole spiritual thing, there's so much bullshit around that. And it's locked into this idea that women fit into a little box and you can't come out of your box, right?
Well, it took me 57 years to come out and tell people straight out I'm a psychic, because I wanted everyone to like and accept me. That's been kind of my biggest thing. Charlene, I'm so glad that you were able to jump on board with us. For people who haven't had a chance to meet Charlene yet, she has been a key component for Mastermind, and you don't see many women leaders in Mastermind. It's particularly mostly a male populated being a leader, and Charlene has been a leader. Charlene, can you share with us in the beginning, did you have difficulty being a woman, and what has that evolved to today for you and your business?
Okay, clarification. Difficulty being a woman or difficulty being a woman who's doing master?
Both. Both.
I could say yes to both. Yeah. Okay. It is so funny because it's so funny that you're talking about this. My heart is in research, all right? And it is in business research, market research. Quite honestly, you ask me a question, I am compelled to find the answer. That is who I am.
That's great.
And that is frowned upon, because as a woman growing up, and in many instances today in my business, I will see the looks from primarily other women, but I've been told, stop being a know-it-all. There's not possible for you to know all that. I don't understand how you could be that smart. Nobody's that smart. And I'm like, I know where to look for the answers. Come on. All right. So I had that. But today especially, I was doing some psychometric research, and was doing a few things on my own digital footprint using some tools that I have. And I come out in terms of just a profile. The preponderance is that I'm male, though, you know, it's like a 0.01% I could possibly be lesbian. Don't know where that came from. And everything leaned towards male, right? Everything leaned towards male. And I was looking at that saying, well, I don't know who programmed this. You guys are just full of crap. Because there aren't that level of psychometric detail with a computer program based solely on a digital footprint is BS. It's BS, because what I have learned, and Lisa's one of them that has taught me this, is that I am who I am. I am fully confident in my ability to be a great woman. I am married to a terrific fellow that I picked out. And I am focused on growing myself and my business, right? And I tend to do things only because they make sense to me. So that's where I get a lot of disjointed feelings from other people, right? Is because if it doesn't make sense to you, of course I look a little odd and I sound a little weird and sound like I know it all and all that, and I really don't. The difficulty, quite honestly, is where I come across it primarily is with other women, and it is because I tend to be direct, and I tend to be of the mind that we're both adults, and I'm not here to assuage anybody's feelings, and that tends to be what I hear from other people, is that my directness hurts feelings, that it's, you know, I need to soften up, I need to be more feminine kind of stuff. It just confuses the bejeebies out of me, so I just pull my groups together and I go on.
Well, and you know, and I want
it's always a struggle, right?
And Charlene, I want to say this on your behalf, because so many people out there are wanting to create their own mastermind groups. I mean, everyone's like jumping. I mean, Napoleon Hill's been gone for, you know, decades, and you've been doing this, and it's so interesting because people invite me to their mastermind groups, and it's just like a girl get together, you know, coffee chat. There's no real business discussed, and so because I've been doing mastermind with you for several months now, I am so, in particular, I'm fussy because they're not you, because you're structured. I mean, you are not on, I mean, you are warm and fuzzy. You do like Marvin Martian, you do shoot pool, but you make mastermind about mastermind. It's about, I want to grow my business. And so it's everybody supporting one another. You are very timely. Everybody gets their equal amount of time. Like nobody gets to override the other person, and women are coming together to support one another. And that is what is different about your mastermind group. And so I'm so excited that you came on. I mean, you're really downplaying the role that you have, but you know, it's true, as Jen was saying, women need to start supporting women. We've got to be aware of that. We're not doing that. Do you agree, Lil?
I do agree. I was the president of Zonta, a local organization that helps empower other women. And what I found was women were just, because of the election, were just so much against each other of who was for who, it almost broke the club apart. You know, and that's really sad.
I will just jump in quickly because you said about the election, Lil. I want to thank you, Lisa, for what you said about how I structure my masterminds. During the election, I was running a mastermind that was primarily of women. And during the election, half of the women showed up completely incapable, or trying to tell me they were incapable of participating in the mastermind because they were so distraught over the election. And I told them this is how I work. I told them, if you can't participate now, you don't need to come back.
I love it.
Right? We're here to talk about business.
Yes.
I did not say what was in my mind, which is, if you need diapers, they're over there. If you need Kleenex, they're over there. We're here to talk about business and leave everything else at the door. But I did tell them, if you can't participate in this one, you don't need to come back. And I actually had one that didn't come back of her own volition, because she was so put off by my directness. But that's how I work.
Sure.
I just wanted to jump in on there because I think this is a really interesting point for all of us, is that on the one hand, it's true. Women do have this idea that they need to be coddled, right? And the emotion is really important. But then that's what women have been trained to do. They've been trained to see their life through the filter of emotion. Like, how do I feel? We're very much about how do I feel? How do I feel? And yet we're at this place where it doesn't matter. Like, you know, I say that to people when I had to move, and then like my family were like, well, are you glad about moving? How do you feel? I'm like, who cares, right? This needs to be done. It's immaterial how I feel about it, you know, and I get to choose if I want to enjoy it or be miserable around it. And I do think that's a really brilliant point, because maybe that's the area that women need more structure or instruction around. Like, instead of mollycoddling everyone around their feelings, just make them own it. You feel something, go take care of it, and then come back, right? Go get what you need to do. That's the whole point of spirituality, is that it allows you to filter through. Like, you have an experience, you experience it, and then you go, okay, I'm done with this, and goodbye, and you let it go, right? But if you're sitting there with all your misery and all the reasons why you play a victim. It's like they say, when you play that victim role, when you choose to respond because someone's hurting your feelings, and that becomes your way of operating, you know, it's a very manipulative thing. It also weakens you, because then you got no legs to stand on. But you can't be a master and a victim at the same time. So you have to choose which side.
Donine, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, I want to weigh in on what Joey was saying about the men at the conference in California.
Yeah.
The conference that I spoke at last week, it's large for our area of Southeast Texas. I mean, it's the only women's conference that we have anywhere in a 200-mile radius. And it was our 10th anniversary, and I just looked at the brochure because I wanted to see what was the division of speakers that were men and women. Well, there were 25 speakers, and 8 of those were men. So that's a third.
Wow.
A third of the speakers were men. And the things that they talked about, there were two gynecologists. One of them talked about how to be an unhurried woman. Well, what do you know about being a hurried woman?
Thank you. Thank you.
Not going to a session. One of the other guys, he's an oncologist, and he had some good information about breast cancer and, you know, being aware and doing self-exams and getting your mammograms. And so that was all good. But then, and this is what really gets me, there are so many women that are dependent upon men financially.
Yes.
And not just because they need that other income in their home, but they depend upon them for financial advice or investment, or they let their husband take care of all that. Oh, my husband's taking care of the retirement. Well, there were several investment guys there that were talking about investments. Well, I would rather it be a woman coming and talking to the women about, here's what you need to do to make your own decisions about your own financial future, whether or not you're married or relying on a man financially or not. But women need to be giving women advice about women's issues. They've already invited me back for next year's conference, and they've asked me to kind of participate a little bit more in planning. So that's one of the things I'm going to tell them. This is a women's conference.
Thank you.
Women come and talk to the women.
And I know.
Bravo.
I know women financial advisors that would be happy to come and talk.
That are awesome.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it was interesting because when Karen Glacier and I were there, we were part of Media Row, and I walked in, day 2, and I said, I have something very controversial. I want us to Facebook Live. And she never says, she's just like, okay. She never even asked. And I brought this up. I just said, I want feedback. Is this okay? I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying anyone else is wrong. I'm just saying that this is bothering me. And here's another thing too. I was talking to a man at the restaurant that evening, and I was downloading him on this. And I said, and he was at a big man's conference. I said, did you have any women speakers? And he goes, absolutely not.
None. They had none.
He said, not just that, he said, absolutely not.
Wow.
Why would we do that?
Double standard.
And because he said, how could they talk to us about what we're going through? I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
But Joey, what I noticed when Karen and you were there, and Karen was live doing one of her live videos, and she walked up to one of the men's speakers and said, and she announced who she was, and I was live, and he brushed her off. He said, I don't have time for you now. And she said, okay. And I went, wow, he's one of the speakers. Someone announced that you're live, and he brushed her off and turned his back to her. And I went, this is a speaker at a man's conference and just turned his back on a woman who announced what she was doing, and she was live. And do you know who I'm talking about, Joey?
I do, Lisa. And thank you for being mindful and noticing that, because
I saw it. I went,
well, but I don't think everyone else would. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know if people were picking up on what was happening to us there. There was a gentleman, and not that he was not good at Facebook Live, by the way, but I wanted to say, brother, this is 1980s, like stuff, like we all get it. But the way he talked to us in the audience was just like he literally said to us, I know how scary this is going to be for all of you.
Oh my goodness.
Facebook Live.
Really?
Facebook Live, right? I literally I contained myself. I was like, how dare you talk down to us? And he said, and I know I've even got my mother to get on Facebook Live, as if that, do you see
that
what
hard?
I'm starting to correlate? I'm starting to correlate this. So here's where I'm at. If the women that are running these conferences are doing this, where do you think this is coming from?
Well, it's coming from the woman. I went to an emerging
Of course,
woman.
Because they're the ones that are putting them in the spots.
But what's so interesting, Joey, is when you're talking about like this guy, or Lisa, that guy who turned his back, etc. I mean, the fact that he actually thought it was okay, right?
Oh, totally.
To dismiss a woman at a woman's conference. I mean, can you get any ruder? Or
on Facebook Live?
Yeah,
on Facebook
you should have
Live.
been kicked out of the conference like right away. Like, you don't even respect the people you're coming to talk about, right? Or talk to, or whatever, right?
Did no woman there call him out on it?
Well, we did, but listen, we weren't in charge of this conference, what I'm saying? I mean,
attendees.
we were media and attendees, but
Okay.
I mean, here's another thing too, is like what I think is very interesting about all this is that when I was putting together my annual event, I literally had to sit down with myself and say, am I going to invite men to my event? Like, am I going to literally reach out to men and invite them to my event? And this is just me, and this is my point of view. And I said, no, I'm not. That's what's right for me. Because I want women, because I know women will show up differently in the room. I know women might not share. I could be wrong, but my indication was maybe women wouldn't share at the same level if there was men in the room as they would if it was a room full of all women, because we have a different perspective. And to Cheryl's point, Charlene's point, we are emotional beings. That is how we're built. We're built to be emotional. On the flip side of it, more men could be emotional too, because that is why we're here on earth, I believe, is that we're supposed to feel emotions. Right?
Yes.
So just a little bit to you, what you said earlier, Charlene. I want to defend these women a little bit that were emotional about what was going on at that time. Okay. We had women going up against other women, literally on Facebook, and like beyond rude, like attacking each other, literally. Friends that have been friends for years, not just like three months, like for years, right? It was a very harsh time, I think, to be a woman. I really do. And on top of it all, I think that the fear factor is real. I thought that the fear factor was very real. Things like being groped and raped and molested, and all these real issues were coming up for women that are at the core of an emotional core of who we are. So do I think things were heightened back there? Of course they were. We had someone that was running for president that was saying that he was groping and maybe even going beyond that, and other women were defending it. So for women, I saw a good friend of Lisa's life down at the convention, and she walked up to me and hugged me. She's amazing. Hugged me and said, I was a flippin' wreck during that entire election season. And you know what I said to her? I said, I get it. Because it was triggering her. It was triggering all of us. There was so many different accusations were being flown. Women were flying them at other women. Women were attacking other women. Men were attacking women. Women were attacking men. It was a very intense time, I think, at least in my generation's lifetime.
Yeah.
I was never part of anything else like this.
Yeah, I think those are all very good points that you bring up, Jerry. It certainly is true that it was a very visceral experience. I mean, we are meant to feel our indignation and our pain, right? We're not saying we shouldn't feel it.
Yeah.
However, I think that it's part of the problem, I think, that we are talking about here is the fact that expressing our pain and having rights as a woman is something we're very unsure about in how we express ourselves, right? Somebody offends us and we feel the pain, but we don't address it to them, right? We're leaning on people saying, I feel this pain, or fighting with the same people who are in the same place as we are. And it makes it really difficult. Because the thing is, I don't think it matters if you're male or female. That's the bottom line, is that we have to be true to who we are, regardless of our, we're all feeling human beings. There isn't any of us that should be going around without experiencing emotions. But being able to experience the emotion and address the cause, right? So if somebody attacks you, we should be able to have the equality to stand up and, right? Yeah. We speak back without feeling like we're not worthy.
Absolutely. And Charlene, I want to give you a chance to respond to Joey's comment, because maybe you want to give a little bit more feedback of why you said what you said.
I mean, No. I know. You're a fabulous leader, and you're speaking your truth, and I still respect that. I just wanted to just give the other side, the flip of the coin of what was happening. It wasn't that women weren't putting on their big panties and they weren't doing this and that. Charlene, this was a very serious. There were the amount of attacks that were going down on very close friends of mine, verbally but publicly, was real. It was real, and it has still caused a lot of friction and waves out there in the marketplace, because women were feeling like, I'm trying to express myself the way that they know how, and then being attacked about it, and it was triggering people in regards to, wait a second, this is the first time that I've ever stood up for myself in this way, and ... Right? Right? I saw more women stand up for themselves during that election period I probably have seen my whole life, my entire life.
True. That's true. I still want to hear what Charlene's going to say, because I know it's...
I just wanted her to know I wasn't attacking her. I just wanted her to know that.
She knows that.
Yeah.
No. The context is that for a week and a half before the mastermind meeting, I was quite aware of the women talking to each other, and they were egging each other on to continue to feel the way they were feeling. had I thought that we could gather and help each other, it wouldn't have been a problem. But in all honesty, because I'm connected to these women in that profession and I watched what they were doing, they were supporting each other's pain, encouraging each other to continue to feel it deeper and deeper. So by the time it comes to coming into a gathering like this, we're here to talk about business and you can't separate that. Your entire life is being run by your emotions. No, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen in my group. They know me, so it was no surprise that that was the way that I approached it. Some of them were relieved that the structure was there and that I was consistent in the way that I led the meeting. Trust me, I disconnected myself from many, many people during the election. It comes down to, for me, at what level is it my responsibility to assuage your feelings, to allow you to be who you are when I can't be who I am? At what point does it become my responsibility to make sure you are in a safe place when I don't know who you are? That's the kind of thinking I have. If I'm close to you, if I know who you are and was expecting you to react, you were being triggered because I know you so well, I'm going to treat you as a friend would. You've got a safe place with me. But if I'm sitting here, if I came into this meeting right now, and half of you were emotional wrecks over something that I had no knowledge about, and that you just you have to express. I mean, this is what I was faced with, right? I'm just so completely wiped out. My life is destroyed. This is and I'm like, listen, I'm not a therapist. I never claimed to be.
Yeah.
Right?
No one's ever going to.
I have to work within my own boundaries, right? And with my own ability. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that feedback. The only thing I want to say is that you were completely aware of what was going on because everyone was. Every single person was in the same boat. I don't care if you were underneath a rock in Africa somewhere. Everyone was being touched by this particular gig. And I understand when everyone was like, and you were just saying, hey, this is business. This is what you guys paid for and signed up for. So show up this way and don't take down the whole team. I get it.
It's an inappropriate place. That's
Exactly.
all.
Exactly.
That's the way I do it.
But I do want to say one last thing, and then I won't say another word. But I'm going to say one last thing because I heard a lot of this out there when it was being said. There are signals we're sending out, like, that I heard men say that I was really offended by, like, grow up, don't, like there are certain signals that, and we as women say it too. And I feel that they're a little offensive. And I would like it if we were just all more mindful just to watch and to see how we're showing up with those signals when we're saying it as well, because it had been perpetuated out in the marketplace.
Well,
and we're not children. I haven't been a child since I was, I don't know.
Okay, so I think you've answered your own question, because this is a really interesting place we're in right now. We're in a place where we need to step up to the plate and take responsibility for who we are, even our emotions. We're meant to feel everything so we can have a greater ability to feel joy. And that includes sometimes people telling us, oh, grow up or pull up your pants. Like a lot of us had those expressions. It's very easy for us to say it. But I think the truth is that we're all going through pain, and we also have to remove ourselves from the idea that someone else can inflict pain on us. And this is what spirituality is. This is what this is all about. It's about us going, yes, people are going to egg me on. I had some of those conversations with people, and I spent, I don't know how long, all day answering these people, trying to write the right thing, trying not to be offensive, trying to get my point across. And then I realized, you know what? This is my life, right? I don't need to engage with a conversation with somebody who isn't going to get my point of view. Mm-hmm. I can send them love and compassion. I can allow them to be exactly who they are. So all of us as women, we're not saying, I certainly am not, and I don't think anyone here in the group is, that you can't feel your pain. that it isn't painful to hear things like grow up or who do you think you are or all of those things. It is absolutely painful, but we all have to go through our own process of, I hear these things, and actually at some point they don't matter to me anymore because I'm not going to be in that place.
I totally agree, but what I'm trying to say right now is it's gender swinging, because we hear it being said to women way more than we ever hear it being said to men, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and so that's
when do we in the press, we never heard that. On Facebook we never heard it, but all of a sudden with women, all I'm just saying is women collectively to be more mindful about the way we are talking to each other, not perpetuating what would be said, because it keeps us in a box that I promise you is not being said to men. It's not.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Everything you're saying.
Except for Trump right now. He is being put in little baby outfits right now.
Yeah. Yes, and I totally agree with everything you're saying.
On babies everywhere.
Yeah,
and that's not okay either. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what, Joey? This is the whole point: is we have to go back, come out of the kindergarten thing, where everyone. To what your point? How I speak is how I speak. I take responsibility or I don't take responsibility, and that is true of everyone in our lives. You know. People who've been a certain way, older people, our parents, they're not going to change how they speak. What we can do is change how we receive. And so this comes back to the journey. Where journey we're on is, how do I take this? What am I making this mean? Right? I get what you're saying about how people are using all this stuff. Look, we're in the end of the patriarchal system, right? They're not just going to go away and say, oh, women are in charge now. Okay, I'll just sit down and listen. I'll give them equal airtime. We have to fight for this, right? But we have to fight for it in a way that empowers us. I don't want to go around saying to people, you've got to use a certain language so I'll feel safe. No, right? I see what you're saying, and we do need to have a place for people to come to a place where they can recognize they are more than
I'm not saying that, Jen. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying let's be mindful. I started off with saying let's just be more mindful. That was it. Yeah. Just like I was at a conference with half men. We're just being mindful. I didn't leave the conference. I didn't go up to Michelle and say you sucked at putting this conference together. That's not my job. I stayed in my own lane, but I did media about it, and I did have a friend be treated not poorly by some of them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, totally. I totally get what you're saying. And now we need to increase our skills to speak back to men and put them in their place, right? Without embarrassing them. This is the thing where we have to go, right? We have to be able to put people, even people who say unkind, women who say unkind things to us, men who say unkind things or try to put us in a box. We have to learn the skills of how we respond to people and put them in their place and go, wow, that was unnecessary, right? Do you know you're at a women's conference? Are you even aware of that? Or whatever it is that we need to say, just like we can call up people that speak badly to us. But that's our job to do that, right? Of course, as a group, we want to do that and teach people that, but we can't until we do it ourselves.
Well, and we have the power of social media. So for example, this last conference that Duchene had in Texas, or that is coming up and that Joey attended, because of the social media platform, they have to have a Facebook page about their event, and people need to feed the women who attended, and other women need to put pressure and say, hey, I would like to see all women speakers next year. I'm not going to buy a ticket unless we have women speakers there. I mean, the power of social media is there. I mean, look at the pressure of men that are in football that abuse of women. The pressure has been put on there that, we're not going to take this anymore. We're coming together now, and we can use the power of social media to let these when they have these conferences, that we can put the pressure. We as women need to start putting the pressure, going, why do you have 8 men speakers? Why aren't there 25 women? Why are there, don't you have any women? I know some great women that could come and empower. I know women gynecologists and women doctors that can talk about women's breast exams and things like that. I know women financial advisors that can come in and share women from her point of view of knowing women who've been burned by men. As I'm one of those women. I grew up with let the man controls the finances, and I got burned. I had to file bankruptcy because of me turning all my power over, and that's on me. It's not on him. It's on me for giving my power. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have Jen to come today, so we could start talking, about this. Lil, tell us what has happened with your women's group. Are they back together now? I would love an update.
Well, they are back together. I actually sat down with a couple of them and said, really? And I said, I'm the president. I'm just a figurehead. And are you upset over me? Going, now let's be serious. You didn't get 3 nights sleep. It's time to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to address, Joey, what you were saying. I do agree with you that we also do need to be mindful. I don't think I made that point. You're absolutely right. I don't say we should just go and do whatever we need to do, but it's a two-sided thing. We can be mindful, but we also need to be very aware that it's our responsibility now more than ever to own how we receive what's around us and how we allow ourselves to be treated. Because it's too easy to fall back into those boxes, right? And just take that role. I know sometimes, I'm with somebody in the car or something, and then the guy goes, "Oh, my wife." Oh, they make those little jokes about their wives, and then I have to find a way, like I did. Oh, I know you don't really mean that when you say that, right? Find a way to say something to stop the guy from saying, because you know how we do it. We just kind of joke along and go, "Oh yeah," but we're really very upset, but we're not saying, I'm pissed off you're speaking like that about a woman. I'm a woman, right? Mm-hmm. We allow people around us to belittle women all the time, and women belittle men too, so it's not like it's just a one-sided thing. I think when we start to respect men and not let them push us around, we're in a much stronger position. And I just love what you were saying, Lisa, that it's true. We need to stand up and say what we want, right? Instead of just going along with the tide. I was actually at the Emerging Woman. It was all women. It was amazing. It was all women speakers. But, there were issues because even the women that came to speak are from a man's world, right? It's still that old way. And we actually need women to embrace this new way. What is it like to be a woman not living from that old way of being?
Well, speaking of old ways, I go to a lot of local networking events here in Washington State, and even the women-only groups are still doing the good old boys, go to a networking event meeting, and then everyone does that 1-minute elevator pitch. Hi, I'm Mary Sunshine, and I'm a brand partner with Miriam. It's just like nobody cares, and it's just like women want to get to know other women. We don't want to know your product. We don't want to know that you're number one in sales. We don't give a shit, right? We want to know who you are as a woman. And I've quit going to these networking events, and I've spoke up. I've used my 1-minute elevator pitch time that when I go around, I talk about it. I go, I just want to share with you, if you do video conference, you use Zoom. I talk about something that will empower women in business, and they just look at me going, well, and then they go, well, what do you do later on? Well, there we go. They're like engaged, and they want to know who I am. It's really interesting how there's still groups that refuse to give up the old, because men want to get right down to it. They want to know what it is. You sell insurance? Okay, great. I need insurance. You sell this? Great. I need that, or I don't need that. Bye-bye. I mean, that men are a matter of fact. That's how their brains operate. They go right to what it is. But women, we don't work that way. We don't operate that way. And it's really frustrating for me that they keep doing things old school. Like, what does it take? I just quit going. And it's sad because there's a lot of great women there, but it's just, it goes back to old ways. Like it's going to take a long time to get people on board with new way of thinking.
Charlene, I think you had something to say.
Yes, Janine.
Oh.
I did, and I had the same thing here in my area. I was executive director of a women's networking group and took over after about 3 months of somebody else doing it. And she was running it like they were, which was very much like you described. And that doesn't suit me. So, I was in charge, so I changed it. And kind of what happened. So it wasn't long before word got around that this is a very different type of networking meeting. And the way the members were talking about it was more workshoppy, right? We actually talked to each other. Charlene would bring up a topic about business, and we would talk about how that worked in our business and got to know each other that way, how we do business, why we enjoy what we do, who our ideal client is. Why is that your ideal client? You really like working with them? Why do you like working with them? Right? And learning about how we actively grow our businesses and what works and what doesn't. And it was pointed out numerous times, because I still hear about it today. The only reason that it fell apart was because it was too expensive for this area, quite honestly. Yeah. And when I had to leave after a couple of 3 years, nobody was able to take it over and keep it going, because it was an expensive group. It wasn't cheap to join. So we don't have anything like that. It's still the old way, which is ick.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey's leaving. I was going to have Joey jump on and talk a little bit about her event that she just had. Are you still there, Joey?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone. It's been an incredible afternoon spending it with you. And Lisa, I love how you're doing this, where it's like you turned your show into like a cool online gig, where like a talk show. You know what I'm saying? Like Oprah. It's awesome.
Like Oprah. Joey, will you share before you run about your event that you just had? Because you did something that I've never seen anyone do at an event, and you made your event all about the attendees. Can you share your why behind that? Seriously, that was a game changer.
Yeah, I had a download that I wanted women to feel on their bodies. Listen, we all have ups and downs. And so I wanted everyone to be heard and seen on stage, and I wanted them to feel in their bodies an up. So when we're having a down, they can be like, oh, I remember that feeling in my body. So I asked, so it was great because they helped do most of the lifting for me. So as I was going through the event, I brought women up there and they shared on stage. And the spotlight, they stood in their spotlight and shared on stage in front of everyone and got accolades from everyone. And so we had about 32 women on stage in one afternoon. That's a lot of women on stage.
And tell them how you lured, Joey, tell them how you lured them up too. She had a madness behind her.
That was great, yes.
Once they saw what they were going to get as a result, tell them,
yeah.
Joey. I love it.
So I had a Paris treasure chest, and I had it filled with giveaways from people in the like Lisa Lamont, Jen Duchene, Duchene, her book, amazing book. Anyways, and what I did was, as I told them, I said that they would be rewarded in a sense, again, to help women to feel in their bodies that the universe rewards you when you show up as your authentic, true self, and that you share. You will get rewarded. Mm-hmm. It might not always be in a book, or in a
great way,
or embarrassing, but you will get rewarded. And I truly believe that the universe will reward you when you show up and you stand in your spotlight.
And what was so cool is that the attendees had no idea. They went there because they've gotten to know Joey. She's, her group, her Branding for Professional Women's group, which is where I shared this link with, because Joey's got over 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 women now. But these people are coming together because they knew her and they love her and they support her. They had no idea that they were actually part of what the event was all about. It was incredible, Joey. You knocked it out of the park.
Thank you, sister. So it's such a pleasure to meet you all, and I look forward to the next talk. I'll be there, and again, thank you all for sharing your truth. And listen, that's how we're all going to stretch and grow, is by hearing each other's truth, right? Right, Jen?
So true. Yes, Joey,
Love
you
you
got
all.
it. Love
Ciao.
you. Ciao.
Bye, Joey.
Bye.
Bye, Joey.
Donine, I wanted to ask you too, being from Texas, because, you know, we have the stereotype of what women from Texas are. So can you share with us from your point of view, you're representing now the state of Texas, all women in the state of Texas. What is different that we may not know about women from Texas and how they think and do business?
Well, I don't really think that we're very different from anyone else. I mean, I've traveled across the country. I've got family in different parts of the United States, and people that are in the same type of business that I'm in different states. And I think as women entrepreneurs, we all are thinking the same way.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, I talk a little different. I say y'all. And there's still some women in Texas that have big hair, but I got rid of that a long time ago. But I mean, I really think that we're all kind of cut from the same cloth. You know, if we're moms, we're wives, we're sisters, we're girlfriends, you know, I have several different businesses that I work in, so I wear a lot of different hats. But the women entrepreneurs that I've met just in this last year, I really think that we have the same heart. You know, we are wanting to not compete with each other. We're wanting to lift each other up and empower each other and push each other forward and, you know, be the person behind that woman in front of us that we need to help, you know, get to the next level. So I really don't think that me as a Texan, I don't think I'm any different from you as a Washington Stater.
So share with us, because we're wrapping up. We're going to close in about 5 minutes. Can you? I love your book, and so I'm asking you to do a plug for your book, because a lot of the women entrepreneurs are who you are. Your book is all about.
Here it is. Eat, Drink, and Be Merry Through Menopause, and it's really. You know, I wrote it primarily for women because that's my niche market, are women that are 45 to 60-ish. And it's about good nutrition, things that you can do naturally to look better, feel better, sleep better, control menopausal symptoms, control chronic health conditions like asthma, arthritis, inflammatory things. But it's really also about perseverance and figuring out a solution to a problem, because it tells my story of how I dealt with health issues with nutrition and supplements and got off of medication. And then about 10 years after that journey started, my menopause symptoms started happening. So I found the solution once before in my life, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna find the solution again. And then once I found it and it worked, Joey is the one who encouraged me to write a book.
Yeah.
And I had I had thought, you know, I'm giving all of this information to my clients. I took my business online, and I'm working with a lot more people now. But she said, you have got to write a book, because that's going to end up being your signature. You got so much knowledge in your brain, put it in a book. And she was absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Very exciting.
And Lil, will you share with us, what are you working on, or do you have any projects or any events or anything that you'd like to share?
Well, I've got a book called Bobby and Me. Bobby means grandmother in Ukrainian, and it's memories for my granddaughters to cherish when they get older. And I'm a Reiki master and a wellness advocate.
I love it. Look at Jen. We have healers in the house, aren't you?
Yes. And I want to get certified in Reiki. That's my next step.
Yeah, I love it. And Charlene, share with us what you have going on, sister.
Oh, glory. All right. So tomorrow I'm setting aside an entire day to create and plan a new mastermind group. I'm beginning to think it should probably be for women. I'm beginning to think that. I wasn't certain, but and then at the end of the year in November, I'm hosting a business retreat. Currently, it's for men and women business owners in Central and Northern Florida. The focus being limited, 25 people, and the focus is going to be all about them. You know, it's all about the attendees' experience of personal development, right? We're going to be talking about mindset, getting clarity, improving communications, learning about yourself so that you can be aware of others, and be better so that you can focus on your business and your business can grow like you're growing, kind of thing.
Cool.
And between now and then, I'm growing the Grow Alliance, which is where people come together on purpose with purpose to grow their hearts, grow their minds, and grow their businesses. I am not a healer. I'm so grateful you guys are. You guys are out there because I am not yet. I don't know if I ever will be. I have difficulty. I'm still a little socially backward, and I still tend to be overly sensitive. So I take on too much. So I have to wall myself and be very careful about who I associate with, how often I associate with them, and what have you. So I'm grateful that you all are here.
Yeah, and you have to protect your heart. That's the important thing. As Jen was saying, we have to tell our truth, and telling our truth means that sometimes we have to protect ourselves. Sometimes we have to step back and you make a good point about your conference that men will be there. It isn't that we don't support men in business. We do. It isn't that we don't want to attend events that have men and women, but if you're going to call it a women's event, then it should be women's speakers. If it's just going to be an event of empowerment, like, Tony Robbins out there, it's a mix of an audience, and there, you have a clear understanding. But if it was, Tony Robbins, women empowerment, you're going to want to go there, and yeah, Tony will talk, but you expect some women to empower and be part of it. I mean, and it's just like, that's where the expectations. And Jen, beautiful Jen, what do you have going on? And let people know who may not know who you are, what your day job is.
I'm an Akashic healer and astronumerologist, so I deal with the numbers, and I do healing work and Akashic reading, which is the book of your soul. So you can ask any questions. It's a question-based healing system. You ask any questions, and we can give you clarity, heal issues and vows and all kinds of things that hold you stuck in the emotional world, as well as any other business, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It's all those things to let go of that the Akashic records are held in the field of unconditional love. So it's very empowering.
And you also have a group too.
Yes, I have a group. Right now it's called, what is it called? Well,
I love it.
It's, anyway, I'm going to be changing the name, but it's Royal something, Royal Challenge, Royal Joy Challenge.
Royal Joy Challenge, that's
changing it to, yes, illumination. It's going to be something about illumination, because that's really what I do. I light the path for people.
And what I love too about Jen's book, because she was giving away books also at Joey's event, it is kind of like, it reminds of, like, you've heard of man cave, like men have their room, their man cave. Will you share what your book is about? I love it. It's kind of like a girl cave.
Yes, it's called Le Chic Cocoon, and it's all about how you create your own sacred space internally and externally. I used to be an interior designer, so I used to help people. So the book really gives you tips about how to do it yourself using what you already have, so you don't have to go out and buy new things. There's also about how you create that energy within you, so you give yourself that room. And now I work on the interior castles of people. So I just shifted what I do, but it's the same thing. Yes. And I have cards, oracle visuals that I'm creating a deck of, and working on that. So I'm going to be.
They're beautiful. I've seen some of them. They're absolutely beautiful. And so Charlene and Lil, I really strongly suggest the two of you to connect, because Lil is moving to Florida, Charlene. She's in New York now, moving down to Florida. So I think the two of you should connect. Jen, thank you for co-hosting, and all of you. I'm really grateful that you came on today and you talked. I've never done anything like this before. It was interesting, but I just felt inspired to do it, because I think we as women, we have to come together and talk. And even though we may not all be on the same page of the same issues, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So thank you so much for joining me today. This has just been incredible. And ladies, we will be back next week with another guest. So thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.